First-time homebuyers are facing unprecedented challenges from rising home prices and larger down payment requirements to stricter insured mortgage rules and economic uncertainty. With this panel, we're going to explore the key barriers holding them back and how brokers and lenders can step in with tailored guidance, structured insured deals, and creative financing strategies that turn hesitant buyers into confident homeowners. So the first question that I have for you is, what do you see as the biggest barriers first-time home buyers are facing in today's market, and how can brokers help them overcome those challenges? Who'd like to take that?
I'll take it. First of all, thank you, Michelle. I believe first-time home buyers are facing an issue about affordability. Housing prices have definitely outpaced income. They're facing stricter guidelines from a lender perspective. There's a lot of economic uncertainty. Recently, I had a coffee with a friend in regards to tariffs. My friend owns a salon, and they said, wow, tariffs are really impacting my business. And I'm like, do you order your supplies from the US? Like, I don't understand. What he said was no. He said, people now, instead of coming into the salon on a regular 2-week, 3-week, as you can tell, I wouldn't know what it would take to go to a salon. They're now choosing, because they're being impacted, his customers are being impacted by tariffs, they're now choosing to not get their hair done maybe once every 2-3 weeks, but instead pushing it off to maybe the next event they have to attend, which may be 3-4 months down the road. So the instability from an economic standpoint is also impacting our new customers.
Down payment is another big factor. I mean, it's no secret that the cost of living has skyrocketed, which, you know, all it does is pose additional challenges and makes it a little harder for our first timers to save up that down payment. You know, there are a number of scenarios where, you know, maybe in the past, traditionally, they could lean on the bank of mom and dad. We don't necessarily want to be applying that pressure to that generation anymore. And so there's still, you know, the challenge that comes with saving up that down payment. And I'm referring to, you know, your clients that would still otherwise be considered a AAA client, for example. You know, they make good income, dual income household. But again, things are just so expensive right now, right? It's no secret. And I know we're going to go into it a little bit later around how we can overcome those challenges.
So I'll just make a couple of comments because I'm totally aligned with my colleagues up here. First of all, affordability is absolutely number one issue in Canada right now, and the housing crisis. Deposit, number two. Number three is tougher rules. And my perspective is going to be a little bit different because I'm with Requity Homes, and what we do is it's a rent-to-own model. And so it's one of Canada's #1 rent-to-own models. And this proves to be an alternative path to home ownership. And I think what we need to do is look for more innovative ways of getting, you know, Canadians into homes and off the sidelines. And I know that we're going to have that kind of conversation. But when GDS, TDS is maxed out, when gifting is maxed out, when a co-borrow is maxed out, when a equity position is maxed out, when all of those roads lead to no, then rent-to-own may be an option, and it's a strategy that is not even being considered today.
Yeah. And what kind of, just out of curiosity, what kind of demographic of clients are you seeing, you know, in the rent-to-own space?
So that's an excellent question. So first of all, I would say to you, Gen XYZ, who have totally lost faith in the ability to actually land into a home that they can actually own and call their own. Number one. Number two, business for self, who don't have the income verifiable or don't have in their balance sheet or financial statements, or under 2 years. Someone who's gone through a life change, like a divorce, doesn't have the separation agreement signed. Someone who's business for self under 2 years. Like I'm seeing nods of heads. So these are your clients. And the problem that we're doing right now is we're saying no to them. And when we say no, we shatter dreams, and they are left on the sidelines forever. And our job as professionals is to get them out of those sidelines and into a market. And I'm not saying that rent to own is the silver bullet, but it's just one additional tool that we need to be talking about around the table and giving the types of demographics that I'm talking about, even newcomers. Newcomers come here with this American dream and they find it the American nightmare. And that's it's a big challenge, and it's a challenge that we have to own.
Thank you. Okay, and with, I'll start with Natasha on this one. With changing insured mortgage rules, what strategies are working best to structure deals that maximize purchasing power for entry-level buyers?
I would say one of the most important things and one of the most important strategies that you can implement to your process is pre-approval. It is never too early to pre-approve your clients or to have that discussion, honestly. I mean, they could still be a year or two out, but that's a year or two of conversations that you could be having with them, and a lot can change in that time frame as well, right? Start that conversation yesterday, get them ready, keep them organized, get those documents in order. We all know how much of a headache that can be, but do yourself and the client a favor by having those discussions very early on, and then keep in touch with them. Keep in touch with them, keep up to date with what's going on in the market. But to add to that point, you don't want to overwhelm the client either. There is so much conflicting information out there right now. It's overwhelming. It's overwhelming to the average consumer. So it's also our job as brokers and lenders to simplify that process as much as possible and to bring that clarity for them, getting them ready so that when there is an opportunity for them to strike, they're able to do so effectively. And it makes everybody's lives a lot easier, and it makes the process enjoyable again. To Marianne's point, for some, they've been carrying this dream for so long, and when you are there to help them champion and make this possible, I mean, you get to be a part of their story and their journey, and it's fun again.
Alfonso?
Yes, thanks. Well, as most of you know, the purchase price for an insured mortgage has increased to $1.5 million now, where you're able to break down the down payment requirements to 5% of the first $500,000 and 10% of the remaining amount. I think that gives a lot more options to clients. The idea of having them buy a property with a legal suite with it that can generate some income that will help support the ratios. I think what doesn't get talked about enough is you need to spend time and you need to create relationships with your lenders. I can tell you that I've been on the lending side for 25 plus years, and we will take an application from a client that would be deemed at face value weak from a broker we have a long-standing relationship. We would rather or prefer that type of application. We have a long-standing relationship with that broker. I can tell you if we get a new deal from a broker that's been around for a long time, we know they have relationships, all of a sudden we get a deal from a broker that's never dealt with us before, and it's got a short closing, might have a 780 beacon, we might look at it 3 ways from Sunday. So let's not forget, while all these opportunities are available for first-time homebuyers, programs are changing, enhancing opportunities. I think as brokers, you really need to spend some time on creating a very positive relationship with your lenders. It goes a long way.
I agree. Marianne?
Yeah, so what I would say is in support of traditional mortgages, which you would do every day, all day, when that path doesn't work, as low as 2%, you can get your clients into a home of their choice. And while they're there, we start working on with you the ability for them to save up to 5%, their ability to build on their low credit score if they're in the fives, their ability to build a credit bureau if they have no credit bureau, their ability to actually be able to put some income that's verifiable so that a traditional lender can approve it. So this is where rent-to-own becomes not a workaround, but a real runway right into an insured product. And so I would say to you that you need to be thinking of the people that you're saying no to right now that fit the criteria, some of the criteria that I just talked about. I'm hoping that you can go back and say, you know what? No, not now, but I have a plan for you. And I think that plan should look at as low as 2%. They obviously have to qualify. We're not going to overextend anybody. So they have to have income and the potential of getting there. And we'll work with them with a 3-year plan. So I think that's where one of the innovative approaches to when a traditional mortgage doesn't work, and that is the golden standard, that there are other options like rent-to-own.
It's a good option to have. Okay, just segueing into the next question. How can brokers and lenders work together to provide clear guidance and education that builds confidence for hesitant first-time home buyers?
I can come on. Listen, this is like 3 decades in this business, and I love it. And I've come from the banking sector, so I was in one of the 2 Scad A banks, and brokers were eating my lunch way back then. And the reason brokers were doing it is because they were tailoring advice that crossed all brands. So you weren't limited to the brand that you woke up and worked with every day. You were able to look at the best of any type of brand you wanted to work with and give that client a tailored approach to what is the best product for them. So what I would encourage you to do is not to continue learning about projects and programs like rent-to-own. And we're not the only one out there, but we are number one. What I would say is that is your job. Don't leave your clients on the sidelines. That's what I would say. So that's my biggest advice, is continue to do why you are here, which is provide good, solid advice. And use rent-to-own as one of the tools in your arsenal to give clients hope in getting into a home that they can call their own.
Natasha?
Just to add to what Marianne said, I echo a lot of that. My background is actually in marketing. That's what I did before I crossed over into the mortgage world. And my why at that time, and still is today, was to educate. That's why I got into marketing. I love gathering knowledge and I love passing that on. And I've been fortunate enough to be in different roles within this industry. And now I'm able to, to yourself, the brokers, and also as an extension to your clients, I'm able to offer a 360 approach, because there, again, just to bring it back to what I was saying earlier about, there's so much information out there and a lot of it's contradictory. We can do our best to educate the clients and pass on the knowledge that we have, but then they go home and then they talk to their family, and then somebody's relative says, well, I heard.
Google things.
Yeah. Oh, exactly. Yeah. It's like going to the doctor and challenging the doctor on their advice. It's you are the experts. Don't forget that. And I challenge Google on some of those answers that you might see as well. But to bring it to private lending for a second too, there's a lot of misconception around the concept of private lending, not just in our space, but on the consumer's end as well. I can't tell you the number of calls I got and questions where, does private mean that it's coming from the bank? Not quite, right? And that's where that education piece comes in. And then also helping the client build that blueprint and the roadmap for getting them back on track, because their profile, no 2 deals are alike, right? We've never seen 2 files that look the same. And if you have, that means you've been in the industry a long time. But, I want to bring it back to the education piece. Just simplify it and share your knowledge with them. That's how you're going to build their confidence as well. And also nurturing that relationship so that they're not afraid to come to you with questions and know, some of the smaller questions that they might be afraid to ask. We don't want them to shy away from that. We want more of that.
Yeah, and just on that educating piece too, I have clients that when I speak about mortgage finance companies say they don't want to go with a private lender. And so it is all about educating because, they don't know. So Alfonso?
Along the same lines, partner with your lenders, your insurers, be transparent with your clients. What I see many times in the past is, we're trying to jam a square peg in a round hole. I can tell you, you may be looking at a deal and you're saying, I got to get this done. I got to get this done. It may be an affordability issue. Maybe they want to buy this large property, but maybe a smaller property in this instance might be the right decision. And you should be concerned. All of you should be concerned about, this is my reputation in regards to the lender. And I can tell you what's talked about in the back corners of lenders, it's not talked about up front, is the performance of your individual portfolios with each of the lenders. I promise you that if for whatever the reason may be, that coincidentally 3, 4, 5 of your files with a lender start falling into arrears, your experience with that lender is probably going to change. And if you're in it for the long run, is that one deal that important to jam into that lender to make that client and your number one referral source happy, but it may impact your experience with your lender moving forward.
Good point. Okay, so we've got one more question and a bonus, so hopefully we can get to some question and answers. What innovative or creative financing approaches are you seeing that help bridge the affordability gap without overextending borrowers? Alfonso?
I would jump back to a property with a legal suite that has extra income attached to it. It's an opportunity, but what has worked the best from my experience is, and I hate to do this, create a strong relationship with your lenders. They will help you on those deals that are on the fence. A lot of deals are on the fence. And if you have that good relationship defined as, you've created a relationship where you've sent in deals where for every 10 deals you send in, you fund 7. Because many brokers will send in, sometimes my experience has been 10 applications to fund 1 deal. We'll approve 6 of them and we end up getting to 1 funded. Your efficiency ratios are important. Knowing that a lot of deals are going to be on the fence, if you have a strong performing portfolio with that lender, you've created a strong performing portfolio, that lender will make those exceptions in those instances where it makes sense to get that deal done.
Yeah, and not only that, you want to make sure it fits with that lender. You're not just, sending in 4 or 5 deals and hoping 2 of them stick. So understanding what your lender guidelines are and, submitting it to the right lender. Ladies, any one of you?
Go next. So, clearly, the expertise that I bring to the table now is on a rent-to-own basis. So when all of those tech boxes don't fit, then that's when you should be thinking of a very innovative way to get your client into a home. And what I would say to you is we partnered with CMHC, so they're one of our premier partners, and our documentation lends extremely well. So when they're ready to buy back, it is a seamless process. And they've been outstanding. We've been part of their innovation fund. And so what I would say, it's initiatives like this that we need more of in Canada. And what I know for sure is that in one of the surveys, our own Canadians are saying, listen, we don't want you to give us things. We want just different policies that allow me access. And rent to own was number 1. The second was the 40-year AM. I'm not sure where that's going, but it's those policies that I think are going to help the innovation that's required in this country.
Tasha?
I just wanted to add something to what Alfonso was saying earlier about really nurturing your relationship with your lenders. It is so important in this business, especially in the alternative space, right? you know, for every 10 of those deals where there's maybe one getting through, the person on the other side, you know, they remember that, right? And I was going to bring it to an example. We don't necessarily enjoy just as much as you do getting a decline, right? And on top of that, let's say, for example, I have a broker that, just newly established that I'm working with. They've submitted a file. They're testing me out, and we're testing out the relationship. We get them that approval, but then they take our approval and then they shop it around. Not great. Not a great experience. Not great for the relationship. So I would say, polish your process and solidify those relationships with your lenders as well, because then you can go to them at any given time and say, listen, I've got this tricky deal, and can we just hash it out? Can we just figure out, is there a solution here? And I can't tell you the number of times I've told brokers, directly, I've been completely transparent. I said, this is not something that we would be able to assist with, but I know somebody within my network that will be able to assist you. And that's the power of the network as well, right? And building that relationship. If we have a mutually beneficial and respectful relationship, I'm going to go above and beyond and even hand you to another lender because I know that it's going to come back later on down the road. I'm not worried about that, and it's just something to keep in mind when you are working on your submissions and you are dealing with your lenders. We do remember if you've taken our approval somewhere else.
Okay. All right. We have a bonus question here. Looking ahead, how might shifting economic conditions or housing policies change the first-time buyer landscape, and what should brokers start preparing for now? Anyone of you?
Yeah, I think late last week we heard Carney put housing, basically shine a huge light under this bushel. And I think, doesn't matter what side of that aisle that you're on, I think that's a really good news for us. I think the reason that is because my experience is that pricing and policy change affordability, but we need innovation to change access. And we need an ecosystem of constituents around that table, whether it's a combination of private and public sectors. I mean, we're already talking to municipal, provincial and federal governments on how we can change access to affordable housing. And what does that mean for developers, builders? What does that mean for real estate agents, brokers in this room? We all have a stake in this. And so I think that's number one. And I'm very encouraged about $13 billion being placed on the table. Where that goes, I think it's up to us to be that voice or part of that voice. I think the second thing is we need to work really hard in trying to make this American dream come true for many people. And there are innovative ways of doing it right now. I've mentioned one. There are others, and I think that's where the responsibility and accountability of the people in this room comes to a head. It's really important that you work hard in trying to find the right solution and working with the relationships that really matter, not for the short run, because this is a long game. It's not a short game, and people move around. Right? So it's the same people around the same block. So if you do it to one person at one place, I'm going to tell you, I'm guaranteeing you that you're going to see that person somewhere else. So I think that there are solutions, and we got to be working hard to make those solutions come to bear.
Hanzo?
I would brush up on all of the government assistance programs, first-time homebuyer programs. As you know, that there's been focus. You saw the shift on insured amounts change in regards from moving from $1 million to 1.5 million. A lot of your customers probably don't know about a lot of the government assistance programs. Brush up on it. I think if their experience with you as a broker, where you're shedding light on opportunities from that perspective, I think not only will it win that client, but they'll probably tell 10 friends, and before you know it, you'll be that subject matter expert, and there'll be opportunities specifically for each client that comes across your desk.
Tasha?
One example of where private can really come into play and really help your first-time home buyers is with bridge financing. And there have been a number of cases where we've had AAA clients that were declined at the branch, or they were being held up at the branch, and we were able to step in and quickly offer that bridge solution to help them close. No delays, no extra fees, right? So that's a tool that you can kind of keep in your back pocket. I would say, of course, that's more of an emergency strategy, but that's one way that brokers, you can leverage your private lenders. And as always, the idea is to help them graduate out of the product. The sooner the better. But that's one of those examples. And another product I wanted to mention too, similar to what Marianne and Alfonso mentioned, there are also a number of co-equity programs that exist out there. And if you're not familiar with them, I highly recommend looking them up. One example that comes to mind is a company called Ourborough, where they can assist with down payment. And this brings it back to what I was saying at the beginning. This is one of our biggest challenges that first-time home buyers are facing. So there are a number of creative tools that are out there that exist, and it's our job to educate ourselves on them, and then pass that information to the client, and then also help facilitate, help them get there. That's what we're all here for.
All right. Well, let's get some final words from you guys, and then we'll wrap it up from there.
So I'll go first. And what I'd say to you is that I get really quite wound up about the fact that my kids might not be able to consider themselves as being in a position to own a home. And, my generation, it was almost a right. I never thought for a second that home ownership was out of reach or out of sight for me. And this is under our watch. And so I think that we owe it to, the next generations to work towards a solution where housing and affordability and home ownership are within a choice. It's a choice that Canadians have. And what I know for sure is a lot of people have taken themselves out of that choice. And that is not because they want to, it's because they feel like they have no other option. And so I think we need to work together as an industry that says, how do we help create solutions, whether it is accessibility, whether it is affordability, whether it's policies, and how do we help one another to bring all of that to bear? So I'd say that, I'm thrilled about rent to own. I really am. I'm thrilled about, being part of number one's, Canada's leading rent to own program. And I can tell you right now, we can cut 100 checks right away for 100 clients that qualify. That's the immediate solution. But there is a longer term solution, and it's going to take everybody to work together towards it. And that's what I'm hopeful for.
I have been lucky enough to be dealing with independent mortgage brokers for a long time, right across Canada. I can tell you, or I can promise you, that this is one of the greatest industries to be in. I can tell you that I have seen individuals put their heads down and become very successful at being an independent mortgage broker. You've heard a lot from these panelists this afternoon in regards to what it takes. You're kidding yourself if you just nod your head and say, yeah, I can do that. It's not only can you do it, are you willing to put in the time? Building relationships is not easy. It takes time. Economic conditions change. There's highs, there's lows. But if you put your head down, and you will be successful. This is an amazing industry right across Canada. There are so many successful people I have met, all shapes and types with different backgrounds, some with education, some with minimal, some with lots, some that were previous, nurses, Others were previous, VPs of banks. Yeah, the array is incredible. Having relationships is incredible. And I applaud all of you for choosing this industry, and I support all of you. If you put your head down, you'll do amazing.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you, Michelle.